Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. I'm sitting in the hotel bar. If you missed it, we just went live with Bob Ryan, the sports writing legend. It was awesome. It was a little bit different than what we would normally do, but we talked a lot about his time covering the MJ. We did a fun, interesting conversation about Cooper Flagg versus Larry Bird, him covering Magic versus Bird in the Final Four. Really fun interview, but we are at the Final Four. You know, things are getting a little loose when Torres is sitting here looking like this, but I'll tell you what, I'll put this one down. I'll be responsible because this is a serious conversation. We're talking portal. And there was a lot of portal activity here over the last 24 hours. If you missed it, we did a full episode on Saturday where we basically talked about the movement on Saturday. The big news at that time was, of course, Yaxel Lendenberg to Michigan. Will he stay? Will he go? Jalan Lowe heading to Kentucky. If you missed it, go back and listen. But today, it's Sunday. There's a lot of new stuff to get to. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the biggest pieces of news surrounding the transfer portal on Sunday. And we're going to keep going strong. I am one that does not believe that the portal is slowing down. Too many teams need too many players. I think it is going to stay busy. So let's go ahead and dive into what we learned on Sunday. Everything post Yaxel Lendenberg and Jalan Lowe. First of all, huge name, and a name that I think at this point is as much of a household name in college basketball as you can really have in this era. Darrion Williams, you may remember him from Texas Tech. He is sort of in the portal. First of all, I think everyone knows who Darrion Williams is, right? Big, physical, low post player that can also stretch the floor. Played at Texas Tech this year. 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists per game, all while shooting 34% from three. And where you probably remember him from is Texas Tech's Sweet 16 and Elite 8 run against Arkansas in that Sweet 16, 20 points, 9 boards, 23-5 in a loss to Florida. So he is a guy that I think everybody is kind of, to quote the old Shaq meme, very familiar with Darrion Williams' game. Like I said, he's about 6'6". He's a little bit undersized, but he is a physical, tough rebounder. Ask Arkansas, ask Florida. And then on top of that is also a guy that can stretch the floor. So he does a lot of different things. He was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year at Nevada before going to Texas Tech. And I just want to kind of lay out what we learned about him because it was very interesting on Sunday, okay? So Jonathan Givony is the one that broke the news. And why it's interesting is for 3 reasons. One, Darrion Williams has entered the NBA draft and is testing the NBA draft waters. So like we talked about with Yaxel Lendenberg the other day, there's a possibility that Darrion Williams does not come back, does not play college basketball in 2025, 2026. There's a possibility the game against Florida in the NCAA tournament was the final game that we see. With that said, though, and this is where it gets interesting, the bottom part is where it's interesting, the fact that he's entering the portal. I'm going to read Givony's tweet verbatim because it's very interesting to me. He said, Williams will also enter the transfer portal on top of the NBA draft to maintain flexibility and access the college landscape closer to the withdrawal deadline. That is very specific wording. That to me means one of 2 things. Well, really 2 of 2 things. The maintain flexibility, part of it is, hey, if I don't enter the transfer portal during this draft process and I want to come back, it means that I'm kind of stuck taking whatever NIL Texas Tech wants to give me. So in other words, you go back 2 years ago, Coleman Hawkins enters the NBA draft at Illinois, back to Illinois, does not enter the portal 2 years ago, comes back to Illinois, and he was kind of lowballed with NIL, and that was why he entered the portal a year ago. So Darrion Williams is going to go through the draft process, but the second part to me is interesting as well. Maintain flexibility and access the college landscape closer to the withdrawal deadline. What that says to me is that he plans on taking this thing all the way to the finish line in late May, early June, whenever that draft deadline is. Why that's significant is because this may be Texas Tech saying, listen, if you want to go in the port, if you want to go test the NBA waters, we love you, we support you, we'll do anything we can to help you. But we're also not going to wait until you make your decision in late May. Schools used to be hamstrung by that, but now they can kind of say, look, we love you. but we have access to a lot of players in the portal. And if you leave, we can't guarantee your spot. So to me, I think there's a very good chance that if he comes back to college basketball, Texas Tech will have basically replaced him and he will be available. What I will tell you is he's going to be a very good player and a very coveted player. It's day one. I would suspect he's probably playing somewhere else next year because I think Texas Tech is probably going to move on. Right or wrong, I think they're put in a tough situation. And I think when he comes back, somebody's going to need a dude, and they are going to go in the portal and get him. So Darrion Williams in the portal, testing the NBA draft waters as well. My guess right now would be that he is not coming back. The other big name that has entered since we last recorded on Saturday morning, it was actually during the NCAA tournament or the Final Four games. Wesley Yates from USC has officially entered the portal as well. Really interesting player. First of all, listen, I love Coach Muss. Had a disappointing year at USC, but this kid was really good for him. Quintessential Muss player. 6'4", super athletic, very switchable, great finisher at the rim, second leading scorer for USC this season. Former top 50 recruit, redshirted at Washington 2 seasons ago, played at USC this year. So another guy like Darrion Williams, good pedigree. Darrion Williams was the Mountain West Player of the Year, on to Texas Tech. Wesley Yates, former top 50 recruit, on to USC, had a great year this year, 14 points per game, 43% three-point shooting. 43% three-point shooting. And so somebody is going to get a versatile guard, a very talented guard, and a guard that can put the ball in the basket. And the other thing, too, redshirt freshman. He's a little bit older eligibility-wise, and he is going to have a little bit more experience as he's entering his third year of college basketball. But if you get him, in theory, he could have 3 years of eligibility remaining. So to me, I think it's early. I will say the early speculation is Kentucky. Now, I don't want to go too far down that road because I did it with Donovan Dent, did it with Magoon Gwath, did it with a few others. And that's not to say that Mark Pope can't close. We had that conversation last week. It's just to say that when you enter the portal, maybe somebody doesn't know that you're entering, and all of a sudden somebody has interest that you weren't expecting. So we will see what happens. We'll see if he comes off the board quick. The early name on that one was Kentucky. Very quickly, there were actually just in the last day or so a few big-time commitments out of the portal that we must address right now. Let's start with this one because this one is big, baby. This one is really big. How about this? Reed Bailey, 6'10" forward from Davidson, averaged 18.5 points per game, about 8 rebounds per game. I want to see the three-point shooting percentage. I thought I had it up, but I did not. Give me a second here. We're doing it on the fly. We are. It's okay. It's okay. We will figure it out. It's okay. Give me a second. Reed Bailey, Davidson. 18 points per game, 6 rebounds, 41.5% three-point shooting, okay? To me, one of the best players who had entered the portal. Now, we just got so lost in portal stuff that we haven't had a ton of chance to talk about him. But I bring him up. Interesting story at Davidson. Remember, about a month ago, Davidson announces Steph Curry will be the assistant GM helping with fundraising. And the whole thing was to keep guys like this in the program. And there was actually speculation, like a lot of it was just to raise money to help keep this player specifically. I think there was a thought after the season, had they raised enough to keep him? They do not. He enters the portal. On Sunday, he commits to Darren DeVry and Indiana. Okay, listen, Indiana's just quiet, kind of quietly lying in the weeds. We talked about them with Ryan Conwell last week. They couldn't close on him. By the way, nobody's closing on anybody when Pat Kelsey walks into the room, okay? But we're kind of wondering what was that next big move for Indiana. Earlier this week, Tucker DeVries commits. Obviously, Coach DeVries' son, a guy that isn't a legitimate NBA draft prospect, wing, puts the ball in the basket. Connor Enright, another guy with a lot of history with that coaching staff. He was with them this is Connor Enright now, was with them at Drake, then transferred to DePaul a season ago and is now coming to Indiana. But we were wondering, is there another big fish out there? Is there another big fish out there for Indiana to land alongside Tucker DeVry? They get Reed Bailey. And I'm telling you, this kid's a dude. Like I said, 6'10", can shoot the three, finisher. He's a little bit skinny, but it's okay. 6'10". He almost reminds me, you know who he honestly reminds me of? Alex Condon, the forward for Florida that's playing in the national championship game this coming Monday, like tomorrow. That's who Reed Bailey reminds me of. Great get for Indiana. At some point, I'm going to do updated portal rankings of guys. I think he's like a top 10 guy in the portal. I really do. By the way, there's also speculation Indiana could land Nigel Pack. Remember that name? Nigel Pack, of course, started his career at Kansas State, was in the portal 3 seasons ago. We think he's going to Purdue. Then he commits to Miami out of nowhere. That, of course, was John Ruiz and Life Wallet. John Ruiz literally putting out his salary, which at the time was $400,000. That felt crazy in the moment. Now, bad, if you're getting $400,000, nobody, you're whatever. Point I'm trying to make is that Nigel Pack is being linked to Indiana. They obviously are going to need bodies, but you start with that group of the guys that I just said, Enright, DeVree, and now Reed Bailey. Really, really, really like that. Couple other names. First of all, Alabama, Nate Oates. Our Torres on Alabama guy, I was talking to him. He said that he thinks this coming year might be the most talented Alabama team that we have ever seen in the Nate Oates era, which sounds crazy, but I think he might be onto something. Let's get to the news of the weekend in the portal. Then we'll talk about some other stuff with Alabama. But Jaleel Bethea, okay, very interesting story. Former McDonald's All-American, and was a guy who went to Miami this freshman year. Was not very good at Miami, but Miami was kind of a you-know-what show. Averaged 7 points, 2.1 rebounds per game, about 33% three-point shooting. This kid is an A++ athlete, okay? So you have the athleticism, and if the skill comes along the way that that we all think that it can, guess what? I mean, that kid could be an NBA player next season. So I love the fit, a little bit of a Chris Youngblood replacement, if you will. Not a perfect comp. He's more athletic than Chris Youngblood. That is a really good get for Alabama, and it was a very good weekend for Alabama because since the last time I recorded, do you know what happened? Oh, I can tell you what happened. They got Aiden Holloway back. They got Hunter Millette back. They got Latrell Wrightsell back. And they got Aiden Sherrill back, okay? Listen, I'm trying to put together a way too early top 25 for after the national championship game. Going to be a little tough to do because so many teams have so many holes to fill. Alabama's probably like a top 3 team in the country right now. Aiden Holloway, Aiden Sherrill. They add now Jaleel Bethea. We'll see what happens with some of these other guys. They are, of course, losing Cliff Omoyori. They're losing Grant Nelson. They're losing Mark Sears. But a very, very, very talented piece in Jaleel Bethea with all of those other guys. Finally, last team that we have to talk about, Kansas Jayhawks. Bill Self, I was worried there. I didn't put it out, but I was thinking about putting out the Darren Peters, with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith walking into the empty house gif, because for a minute, Darren Peterson didn't have any teammates. There was literally no scholarship players left on Kansas's roster after a bunch of dudes. Rakeese Passmore, Rylan Griffin, AJ Storr, Flory Badunga, they all hit the portal over the last couple weeks. So everybody either hit the portal or graduated. Well, I bring it up because Kansas got 3 different pieces of good news over the course of the last couple days, headlined by the fact that Flory Badunga is in fact returning to Kansas for another season. Listen, we talked about Flory when he entered the portal. The stats don't blow you away. Just freaking watch Kansas. The kid is a beast, okay? 6'10", super new to basketball. He averaged 5.5 points, 5.5 boards per game. But remember, he had like a 20-16 game at one point against Houston. Let me go back and look this up really quick. He, against Houston earlier in the season, had a 19-point, 7-rebound game against Houston, then followed up with a 10-point, 11-rebound game against UCF. So Bill Self needed dudes. This kid is a dude. I'm telling you, I think he has the chance, if he stays in the program and follows the course, has a chance to be an all Big 12 type guy next year. Kansas desperately needed it. By the way, they add Trey White from Illinois. Trey White, of course, 4th school in 4 years. So, we're getting to that point in the world of college basketball. This is just kind of the norm. But I've always liked Trey White. Began his career at USC under Andy Enfield, plays 1 year at Louisville under Kenny Payne, spends last year at Illinois, 10.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 33% three-point shooting. I know Kansas fans want some more three-point shooting production out of their guys, but he is just kind of that tough low-post player. For people who didn't watch him, We just mentioned Darrion Williams. The game kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Not as skilled necessarily, but same body type, same physicality, and he can put the ball in the basket as well. Finally, Jaden Dawson, 6'4" guard from Loyola Chicago, averaged 14 points per game. I'll be real. To me, just a great piece that's probably your backup, one of your backup guards. I don't know if he's a starter alongside Darren Peterson, but he did average 14 points per game in the A10. And so you wonder if he could step in and be an immediate contributor right away. We will see. Sometimes it's a jump up. Bill Self hasn't been great with transfers. But again, you're not asking him to be AJ Story. You're not asking him to be Rylan Griffin. Maybe you are asking him to be Rylan Griffin. If you can be the third or fourth guy with Peterson, Badunga, and maybe one or two other guys, you're good to go. So Kansas needed guys. They're this close to having a starting lineup. So good for Bill Self. Tell you what, I think that's all for the portal news and notes from Sunday here in the Final Four. Pick this puppy back up. Time to get back to work. By the way, if you missed the Bob Ryan interview, go back and listen. He was unbelievable. It was such a blast. Thank you, guys. We'll be back probably at some point with a game preview. We got to talk about the game. Appreciate your support.